everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Badass Confidence Coach podcast. Today, we are talking about living in your head and how to get out of that. So, I have talked about this on the podcast before, but we're doing it again because this is such a common problem, dare I say, with people around having thoughts and feelings, but they just swirl around in our heads all the time, whether it be someone we're mad at, we're frustrated about, and we're not talking with that person because maybe we feel that we're not safe or that it's just going to blow up even more, but we're upset about it, and or we're ruminating about something, a problem in our lives. Name anything in your life, you can think of something at the work or friends or you name it, your partner, and we live in our heads. My clients tell me, yes, I yell at him in my head or I yell at her in my head without ever having really done it. And so that's, a circular way of thinking. And can get to the point where it can be a form of private suffering because it just is inside of us. And so we're going to talk today about how to move out of living in your head all the time. So this is a big one. I've blogged about this. We did another podcast a couple years ago about this. We're doing it again because it's something that keeps coming up in my practice, and something that I know that when I get upset about something or I'm worried about something, I live in my own head. I think a lot of us do.
You kind of stew on it. It's hard to
Yeah, or stewing. Yeah,
yeah, it's hard for us to let it go.
right.
Um, I mean, that happens. That probably happens every day
Yeah,
in some fashion. It might only last for 5 seconds
I
or it
hope
might
not.
last for an hour, but like there's
Yeah,
always internal
I hope people
dialogue.
don't deal with this every day, because when you're really living in your head, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
You
It's
know.
like you're overthinking
Yeah.
a little bit.
Or over worrying, or
Yeah.
you're upset with someone and you don't know how to talk to them, and maybe you just keep replaying the scenario, the conversation, you know you know kind of looking at how you're justified or how they're not, and why can't we come up with an answer, why can't I come up with an answer, and it just truly, it's like feeling like a hamster on a treadmill, and you go nowhere, and it's not a good spot to be in.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about ways to move out of it.
It more common like going into a situation, like you're kind of talking yourself through how you're gonna approach something, or is it more common that you're kind of rethinking something that happened and you're kind of talking around like, "Ooh, wow, maybe I should have handled it differently, and the next time I'm gonna do this."
I think I wish that was it. The way it shows up in my practice is something that has happened that a person is stuck on and they can't seem to get past it, or
Okay.
they're stuck on a problem, maybe in their marriage or in their relationship. They're stuck on something with their kid, something they're upset with their teacher, or they're upset with something with their kid, and they just don't seem to be able to make headway, but they're living in their head about something. They're all like, you've heard the saying before, you're all up in your head, or I'm all up in my head about this, get out of your head about it. Just the other day in my class at Second City, my improv class, we were standing in a line and everybody had to step up. I think we were intimidated by the assignment, and which is unusual for my class because we've been doing this now for 8 or 9 months, and we had this new assignment and you had to step forward and say something, but the instructions, it was just a little bit more advanced. And it was interesting. Nobody, we were supposed to clap after one person came out of the line. They say something, they step back in line, you clap for them. And nobody was clapping for the first two people and the teacher goes, "Oh, I can see you guys are all up in your head because nobody is clapping." And she was right. Everybody was like, "Okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to say?" So that was a great example of
Versus listening to
listening
what
to the
was
person and
happening.
clapping for them.
Yeah.
Everybody was all up in their head, thinking about what they were going to do when they stepped out on the stage. And everybody was probably thinking about something clever or good to say or right to say. And that's the thing about improv, is that it's supposed to be fun and it doesn't have to be right. So that was a really good example of a collective group of people who we were all up in our heads, you know?
That's
Yeah.
interesting. That
So,
is
okay.
interesting.
So let's start with the list. So, number one, a way to move out of, if you feel like you're obsessing or ruminating, or as this episode is titled, living in your head, is to embody different types of practices in your everyday life. So I really encourage you to engage in activities that connect you with your body. So that could be dance, martial arts, taekwondo, karate, jujitsu, or somatic experiencing. Okay. Spending time really, just getting into your body and feeling where you're living in your head. Where is that for you? That is a start. This is where we start. So for many people, it's in their stomach, their tummy, that holds a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry. It could be in your shoulders, it could be in your neck, it can be in your head with a headache, or just feeling like your head is just, you can't think straight, like a brain fog. Okay, so really engage in activities that connect you with your body to get you to be distracted, but make you focus on what your body is doing for you, what your body can do for you. Okay, so this draws attention away from your incessant thinking about this issue, and it fosters a deeper mind and body connection. Okay, so that's number one. So these are embodied practices, is what we call them. Next one is look for creative expression. Okay, so let's once again move out of living in our head and moving into channeling your thoughts and emotions into creative outlets. Now, this is something when I worked in psych and when I worked in eating disorders in a hospital setting, we had art therapy, and art therapy was so, so valuable. And when I first started working on these units, I too did not understand. I mean, I love art. I was going to be an art history major in college, and I have a huge appreciation for it, right? But I did not realize the medium of, in this case, these art therapists, the pencil to pad, paintbrush, paint to canvas, what that did for people, how it really got them out of their heads. So that's something. So it could be painting, it could be writing, it could be listening to music, it could be sculpture, taking a sculpture class, working with clay, working with pottery. That will really get you out of living in your head and get you in the present moment and get you focusing on another form of creativity. So that's a really wonderful, wonderful way. I mean, when I was in my practice, which I'm in now, but this is 24 years ago, I knew of several art therapists. And at that time, I was referring quite often my clients in my practice to art therapists as an adjunct to psychotherapy because I saw the value of it. And there were things that I would see this art therapist do, that one in particular that I worked with. I saw how he would work with the clients, the patients in the hospital, ask them questions and get them thinking and using their creativity. And many of them were working on trauma, and they would paint their trauma or they would draw their trauma. It was fascinating to see with my clients what they were doing with the art therapist that I couldn't do with them. I wouldn't even know to do with them, but it was that medium that worked for them. That really got them out of living in their heads and getting out of their trauma. It was fascinating, fascinating to see.
That, I mean, that's a talent, to
Yeah,
be able to
truly,
to get people to
truly.
go there,
Yeah.
right? Because I think a lot of us are, maybe we're not so confident in our artistic skill set,
Oh,
right?
these therapists and these art therapists, that is a gift and that is a talent of
Yeah,
theirs. It's music therapists. They are amazing at what they can do. At least in my experience in the psychiatric realm, what they can do for people with mental health issues. I forever have an appreciation for those different therapists, the allied
yeah,
therapists
yeah.
in my field.
Very
Okay,
cool.
so creative expression allows for the externalization of internal experiences, making them more manageable for us and less overwhelming. The next one is, of course, there's no way we're getting through an episode like this without me talking about using therapeutic techniques. So if you are really living in your head and you feel like you cannot do this on your own, please seek the help of a therapist or maybe with a coach that has a mental health background. That's why I'm always going to say this. I think that life coaches who are come from mental health, master's degrees, who have degrees in the mental health space, social work, counseling, psychology, see a therapist, see a coach with mental health background because they're the ones who are really going to work with you. Because when you utilize a therapeutic methods such as cognitive behavioral therapy, which I talk about all the time on here, Acceptance and commitment therapy, that's a big one that I also use, and dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. Many of you may already know that therapy. These are the three that I use all the time in my practice, and ones that really help people move out of living in their head. I mean, these are the gold standard therapies, and the ones that are researched, especially cognitive behavioral therapy and DBT, we know they work. Okay, so that's really important. So see a therapist. If you feel like I can't do this on my own, I need help with this. I just cannot get off this hamster wheel of obsessing or living in my head about something that's bothering me. Get outside consultation. That's really important. Now, this next one is new to me, and I'm looking for somebody to come on the podcast to talk much more in depth about this because this is not my expertise, but this is the burgeoning new therapy in the field of psychotherapy. It's psychedelic assisted therapy. So there's amazing emerging research suggesting that guided psychedelic experiences under professional supervision really can help break entrenched ways of thinking, and promote profound personal insights and emotional healing.
Hmm.
So I am going to find somebody. I get pitched all the time. I'm actually looking at one person in particular, to come on the podcast and talk about this because this is the new wave. This is the next wave, and it's happening. So lots and lots of promising help here for those who really are struggling with living in your head, and maybe you're really struggling with obsessive thoughts. Okay.
That'd be outstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
just to hear the research on what's been done already in
Yeah, I
this,
mean, this is I don't know enough about it.
yeah,
I'm of course when I'm looking at my continuing education for my licensing, there are all kinds of conferences out there. So I'm going to get myself up to speed on this, and I'm looking to have conversations with people, professionals in the field. Ketamine, MDMA, you know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool what we're doing. Okay, so that's a whole other episode for another time because I could. That's a rabbit hole that I
that'll be
could.
part two,
Yeah,
part three.
that's gonna be another episode. Okay, so the next another tip for you if you want to learn how to get out of your head when life hits you in the butt and something bothers you, and you're like, oh, I'm obsessing about this. Get yourself out in nature. Okay, go outside, go for a walk. You know, maybe even for some of you, maybe you haven't taken a vacation in a long time and you've got a lot of things on your plate. You got a lot of things that are in your head and you're living your head about not one issue, not two issues, but three or four issues. Think about a wilderness retreat. There's wilderness retreats, there's yoga retreats. Go, as a Catholic, there's silent retreats. I mean, you can go on all kinds of retreats. I mean, you name it. There's all kinds of retreats out there for you. You can go on a meditation retreat. You can go on retreats where they have speakers, but then there's quite a bit of time just doing general meditation. There's ones depending on if you are of a certain spiritual practice, you can find retreats in that way. But these are very, very helpful, and they force you to get out of Dodge for a weekend or for 4 days or 5 days, and they force you to go to leave your home, leave your town, and go somewhere else. And I really recommend that everyone do this at some point in their life and take time for you, really get into you, really look at what it is you're dealing with. And oftentimes there's professionals there that will help you. So you could have a one-on-one with someone. You can maybe sit in a group setting, and while at the same time with guidance, you're spending a lot of time alone working on your issues. Okay. So you're getting out of your head. Really, really important. Okay.
That's a great one. I mean,
Yeah.
getting
People
getting
are
a
not doing it enough.
yeah, I mean, you
It's
get
so
away from like
valuable.
your routine, and you get out into the world wherever it is, especially if you're talking about being outside a lot and you're not used to that.
I mean, can you imagine being in the woods somewhere in New Hampshire or Vermont on a retreat? Whether it be, maybe it's a 3, 4 day meditation retreat. Maybe, you've got one that's of a spiritual practice, maybe Hindu, a Buddha, maybe Buddhist bent to it. Maybe you are Jewish. Maybe you're Catholic or you're Protestant, like Christian. Like there are retreats if that's something you're interested in, but you're not interested in anything with religion. You can find lots of retreats there too that are, they're more secular, but it's all about meditation and all about the self
Yeah.
and working on you, and just working on the universe and spirit. You name it. there are retreats out there for you if that's something that you're looking for. Like I said, I do think that everybody ought to experience that many times in their life, not one time, but many times in their life. It is really a time to put gas in your tank, refuel, get back into you, and to learn to have peace and quiet and to get what's in your head out.
Yeah.
Really,
I mean,
really
you take
important.
so you take that retreat and you mesh it with your whole artistic
Yeah.
situation,
Yes.
right? And now you've got both of those working together
Yeah.
for the person. I mean, what a great time for that.
And sometimes when you go on these retreats, there are art therapists there,
Yeah.
and you can go to the art therapy room, that space, and you can spend an hour or two working on a project that you're going to work on for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is just the best thing, and maybe we don't speak about it enough in the field of psychology, but you know, it can be a paradigm shift in thinking for you in your life.
Yeah.
Paradigm shift in getting you out of living in your head and moving you forward and into a higher vibration and a higher frequency and a more positive energy. Okay, really important. Okay, so the next one is to work on that, do that deep work and flow states. So this is these steps all go, you know, one, not one is more important than the other, but they're all the same as far as how important I think they are. You know, this is deep work is really engaging in activities that require deep concentration and can lead to flow states. All right. So, you know, this is where you're fully immersed and you lose track of time. And for you and I know what that's like. That's running. That's more endurance, long distance running. When you hit that pace and you're in that flow state, that's what we're talking about. And that's oftentimes where, you know, I can be living in my head, but if I'm going on a long run and I hit that flow where just it's just like the miles just go by and it's step after step and it's easy, it's not real fast. So it's like a zone 2 running. It's, you know, it's kind of that fat burning pace. So it's pretty slow and you can have a conversation with someone if you're running with someone, but it's really a time of just being in the moment and getting you out of what it is that's bothering you. So you get 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours of fully being in that state of flow. And when you're in that state of flow, the mind is quiet.
Yeah.
It's that quiet mind.
Yeah.
So that's really,
That's a
really
good.
important. Okay.
You remember the run we went on last weekend in Canada?
Yeah.
So,
No, well, we went on
well, we went
five in a
on
row.
many, but the one
Yeah.
I'm thinking about is when it's pouring rain and we're
Yeah.
running
That
on
was,
a
yeah.
muddy,
Right.
muddy trail that was literally up and down.
Yep.
You couldn't see
There were
anything at
points.
all.
There were points. It was so hilly, Tim. I was like, I could put my hands down. Like,
Yeah.
it was so hilly, so steep.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking from a mental point of view. Like
Yeah.
there were moments in that where I just was like, only the only thing in my head was like right in front of my face.
Yes.
That was it.
That was it.
Because
So
the
you're
rain
right.
was so hard and you didn't want to slip and there were some spots that were kind of steep, right? And you didn't want to fall down. But
So
like you just
yeah.
blocked it. Everything
So
else was
we
blocked.
ran in the rain.
Yeah.
It was pouring down rain
Yeah.
at points. It was very hilly run. That's a great example. And you and I have not talked about that. And
No.
I was in a flow state on that run. I was in front. You're behind. I'd look back a couple of times. You're like right behind me, but we were kind of doing our own thing.
Hmm.
We were like running together, but really in our own run. And there's something about the rain and the sound of the rain and at the beginning you're kind of annoyed by it, but then you just move into accepting that you're wet, you're going to be wet, and then there's something very liberating and freeing about that. And the only thing, you're right, was in the moment, here and now, here and now, here and now.
Mm.
And that's what's so important for so many of us who do live in our heads, is to be in the here and now. And you know, for you and I, it was don't trip on that tree branch, watch out for that rock, get over that rock, you know, jump over that creek, you know, okay, sharp turn right, sharp turn left. And it was up the hill, down the hill, and that's what it was for an hour. And that's a wonderful example of flow state.
Yeah.
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 So, you know, for Tim and I, for you and I, it's running. For many people, it's also swimming. It can be biking, but it could be
Could be a lot of
anything.
stuff.
It could be anything for you. So, you know, I would encourage you, if you don't have something and you're listening to this episode, find something for you. This is your, I'm charging you. I'm charging you, pushing you as your coach to find something that you might be interested in. And it could be knitting, is really, you can get a really great flow state with knitting or quilting. Maybe it's reading. Reading is a distraction. You're not thinking about anything else, but you're able to concentrate on the book that you're reading. Maybe you're going to have a summer of reading. Read a series of books. Okay, so it doesn't have to be fitness, although I think that's a great one, but find your flow. Okay, that's really important. Find your flow. And the next one is, you know, join groups or communities that engage in collective mindfulness, meditation, or other spiritual practices. So, we don't have it at the church we go to now, but we used to have it at a church that we belonged to before. And they had this Taizé prayer on Tuesday nights, and it was beautiful. And I really regret that I didn't take more advantage of it, but we had kids in school, and Tuesday nights were hard to go to. But the church was dark and it was only lit by candles, and they had this really soft, beautiful, meditative, like orchestra music. It was beautiful, and I went twice, and that is something that was a community of people, and they went every Tuesday night. And can you imagine being in this dark space, just lit by candles, this beautiful music, and people were there together, but they're really on their own. Many of them were just sitting in the pews, some were kneeling, just praying and doing a meditation. So that's really, really important. So, you know, and if it's not that, find another spiritual practice that might work for you. Okay. So, shared experiences can really amplify the benefits and provide a sense of belonging and support. So, even though for Taizé prayer, you're there on your own, meditating and praying, everybody else is sitting around you. You're making eye contact, maybe saying hello, but there's a sense of support and community. And oftentimes, what happens is when you're in the vestibule on your way out, people are chit chatting and talking.
Yeah.
Get to know each other because you show up every Tuesday night at the same time.
Right.
You know,
Right. I
so
think music just by itself, whether there's a spiritual influence or not,
right,
I
right,
think music is another one, whether it's on our list or it's not. But I think that's a great one where you can just kind of become absorbed into that
right,
moment and just kind of block everything else off. You put some good
right.
headphones on, or whatever you do.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I do think community support is important. I think it's important to find your people, and I think that there's something very comforting for those who did go every Tuesday night.
Sure.
There's something about that they really look forward to, that, they knew they were going there and it was really kind of for them. And in that context, it was them with their God praying and meditating, but they also knew that there are people around them that were surrounding them
Right.
and that they could, we'd be maybe, like I said, chit chatting after or
Right.
not. But
Right.
I think that that's really important. Okay. You can find that in many different ways. Next one is, of course, we're not going to talk about getting out of living in your head without me mentioning limit your digital overload. So it's an overload. Limit it, please. I just did a reel on this, or a post in TikTok about this today, about the algorithm wants you to stay on TikTok, on the platform, wants you to stay on Instagram. So they feed you. The algorithm knows that you're interested in like funny comedy videos or dog, kitten videos or dog videos. They keep sending them more to you because they want you to develop that habit of spending more time on the platform. So what I would say to you is that's fine, do it for a little bit, but reduce your consumption of digital media and social networks. Really reduce your time on Facebook too, because people our age are still spending a lot of time on Facebook. Don't spend so much time on Facebook. Get out of the computer, get out of your phone, and get into real life. Okay. Constant connectivity and information overload can exacerbate mental noise. Okay. So that's not good for living in your head. You got to get off our computers. For 99% of us today, it's our phones. Implement digital detox periods, and a lot of people do this. We're like, I'm going to get off all social media for the next month. That's really important to do. Okay. Connect with your immediate environment, connect with the people in your home, connect with the people that you see, at work. If you're still going to work 2 or 3 days a week, connect with those people, connect with the people that you go to jujitsu with, or you go to yoga with, or Pilates. That's really important. Connect with nature. Go just walk outside. Look up at the sky. Look at the trees around you. Listen to the birds in the trees. Get into nature and get
Yeah.
into the people in your real
Turn
life.
the podcast off.
Yeah.
In this case,
And
that's
I love
bad.
podcasts.
Same, yeah.
And I love
But
listening to
sometimes it's
them.
like you're right. You got to just like, okay, we'll get to that later.
It's there. It'll
Yeah,
still be
it's
there.
not
It'll
going
still be
anywhere. You're
there.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, I have so many people who listen to this podcast are big fans, and they tell me, some say I listen to you when I'm in my car, my commute to work, and some say no, I don't want to listen. I want to listen to music. Then I want to listen to like my yacht rock or my rap. Other people say no, I listen to you when I'm out, for my walk in the morning, walking my dogs. That's when I turn you on. I've heard everything. Others say no, I don't do that. Then I just want to like listen to music and walk my dogs. I listen to you like when I'm cleaning the house.
Hmm.
So find your time because that's what I do when I'm cleaning or doing yard work. I listen to podcasts. But there's other times when I'm like, nope, I don't want to do that right now because it's too much of AirPods, earbud, things in my ears
Right,
for too many hours a day.
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. So limit that digital overload. The next one is, and this is really important, do that shadow work. I did a whole episode on this. I think it was probably 2 years ago, and maybe I'll do another one again soon. Engaging in shadow work to explore and integrate the parts of yourself that you might be avoiding or suppressing. So if you are avoiding or suppressing is pushing down inside yourself things in your life that you have not dealt with, it could come up by you living in your head. Okay. So the process of doing shadow work, and this is often guided by a skilled therapist because we've been trained in this, can really help you get yourself to a place of deeper understanding and reduce the internal conflicts that lead to you overthinking or living in your head. Okay, so shadow work is so, so important. It's the parts of you, every single one of us has a shadow. You can try to avoid it. You can't avoid it. Shadow is always there, whether it's a cloudy day or a sunny day. There's certain days you can see your shadow. There's certain days you cannot see your shadow. It doesn't matter. Shadow self is always there. It's the skeletons in our closet. It's the parts of us that we don't like. And the parts of us we think the world doesn't see, the world sees it. The
Hmm.
world sees our shadows. So what I say is throw yourself compassion, be gentle with yourself, but step into your shadow and do that work. That's going to really help you with living in your head. Okay. If you're avoiding looking at yourself, if you're still defended about yourself, I would really encourage you to look at that and work on that. I mean, it's so so important to be able to look at oneself and say, "Hey, mea culpa. There are things about me, things about my character, because every single one of us has character flaws. I got flaws. You got flaws in our character. It's okay. Every single one of us does. But to say, "Hey, I got character flaws, and I want to look at them and I want to work on them." Wonderful. That's going to really help you with living in your head. And the next one, of course, which is a little deeper, even also important, is to do that inner child work. So, this is really going to help you address unresolved childhood issues and emotional wounds. This is so important to do that work because if you're not doing that work, these issues, living in your head, obsessing about problems, fights that you're having with people that piss you off, people that you pissed off, and you're here you go, you're the hamster on the wheel, you just keep on going. It's a churn and burn, churn and burn. If you don't do that inner child work, it's going to continue. Once you do the inner child work and you look at where this is showing up in your life, but why this is showing up in your life, why you continue to live in your head, why you continue to be upset or mad or pissed off or depressed or anxious until you do this inner child work, I believe it's not going to go away. I really do.
Hmm.
So, I think it's imperative that if you want to really work on personal development and advance your own psychology, do that inner child work, and that will get you out of living in your head and moving in you into a place of more contentment and inner peace. Not that you'll be happy every day, because happiness is not promised to any of us,
Right.
but it'll move you into a place
You
of,
get closer,
yeah, but it'll move you
hopefully.
into a place of contentment with
Yeah.
where you are in your life. Our lives aren't perfect. We all make mistakes. Not every day is, warm fuzzies. We're always happy. But when we've done that shadow work, when we've done that inner child work, and maybe we have a place we go to once a year, or retreat, we're really getting into working on our stuff. This whole list of things I've said, moving out of social media a little bit. Maybe you're in a running club now. Maybe you swim with the same men and women 3 times a week. You're doing all these things. You're really moving in the right direction. This is life's work, and it's very important work to move out of living in your head. Nobody deserves to be living and obsessing the way so many of us are. So I'm offering you and showing you a way out, a way to not do this. Now there's no perfection. You may still do it. That's okay. But what's important is that you keep on trying to move out of living in your head. Employ these practices, and I can almost guarantee it's going to get better for you.
Like it.
All right. This is a quick one, everybody. I hope that this was helpful. If you want to work with me, reach out to me, hello@annamarcolene.com. And please don't forget to subscribe, rate the podcast with 5 stars, and review it. I read them. I'm so appreciative. And for those of you who have been listening to me for a while now, 4 years, I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to listen. And I hope that I have been of service to you. Okay. Mad love, everybody.